Maple Hollow was the kind of place where everyone knew the sound of everyone else's truck. A quiet valley town framed by pine-covered hills, it hadn't seen a major crime in decades. That's why when Emily Carter, a 32-year-old nurse beloved for her warm laugh and midnight shift coffee runs, vanished without a trace, the whole community felt it like a punch to the chest. Emily's car was found abandoned on Miller's Bridge early one October morning. Her purse was still inside, keys dangling from the ignition. The driver's seat was pushed too far back, farther than Emily would ever set it. At first glance, investigators suspected a random act of violence. Maybe she pulled over for someone. Maybe someone followed her. Maple Hollow was isolated, its roads dimly lit. The theory made sense. But nothing about the scene was messy. Nothing suggested a struggle. Detective Ryan Hale, leading the case, couldn't shake the sense that something was off. As the investigation widened, the idyllic image of Emily's life slowly fractured. Her coworkers revealed she'd been unusually anxious the week before she vanished. One nurse mentioned Emily had been receiving phone calls during her shift, calls she always took in private. Her landlord disclosed she'd recently changed her locks. Her journal, found in her bedside drawer, hinted at something darker. "I know who he really is now. I should have seen it sooner." The more investigators learned, the more they realized Emily had been leading a life no one in Maple Hollow knew about. Phone records revealed she'd been in regular contact with Daniel Reeves, a paramedic who had left Maple Hollow 6 months earlier under the vague explanation of family issues. Emily had never mentioned him to friends. Their relationship had quietly ended shortly before she disappeared. When detectives reached out to Reeves, he claimed they'd broken up amicably. But something about his calmness felt rehearsed. Still, alibis checked out. No dark past. No motive they could prove. Detective Hale made no arrest. But he didn't cross Reeves off his list, either. Just as the investigation seemed to stall, a local teen hiking through the woods found something chilling, a silver necklace tangled in a patch of brambles, Emily's necklace. Nearby, footprints led toward the old Everly barn, abandoned for decades. Inside, investigators found signs someone had been living there recently: food wrappers, blankets, a lantern. And tucked in the corner, beneath a loose floorboard, Emily's phone. The screen was shattered, but the SIM card was intact. When technicians pulled the data, the truth began to surface. There were dozens of threatening messages. Some pleading. Some furious. All from the same sender. Mark Carter, Emily's older brother. Mark was a quiet man, the sort who blended into the background. He worked at the hardware store, attended every church event, rarely spoke unless spoken to. He had no criminal record. No history of violence. But Emily's messages painted a different picture. She had discovered Mark was in debt, serious debt, and he had been using her identity to open credit accounts. When she confronted him, he begged her not to go to the police. She told him she needed time to think. The last message she sent him read: "We'll talk tonight. But you have to stop lying. I'm going to do what's right." Mark was arrested the next morning. Under interrogation, his calm facade cracked. He confessed, not in a furious outburst, but in a whisper, as though afraid the truth could hear him. Emily had met him on Miller's Bridge, hoping to help him find a way out of his trouble. But when she threatened to report the identity theft, he panicked. He pulled her from the car and, in a moment of overwhelming fear and shame, pushed her. She struck her head on the railing. Mark insisted he hadn't meant to kill her. He said everything after, the abandoned barn, the hidden phone, was desperation, not cruelty. But he refused to tell investigators where he left her body. For 3 agonizing weeks, the town searched. Volunteers scoured miles of forest, calling her name until their throats were raw. Eventually, a hunter found her in a shallow grave near Laurel Creek. Maple Hollow buried Emily Carter on a fog-heavy morning in late November. The entire community attended, hundreds standing shoulder to shoulder, holding candles, faces pale with grief. Detective Hale delivered the news to her parents personally. He would later say it was the hardest duty of his career. Some wounds heal. But Maple Hollow would always carry this one, because the monster wasn't a stranger passing through. He was one of their own. And no one saw it coming.